G'day and welcome to another edition of Scripting Adventure. We're continuing the series on creating a fully parametric custom door in GDL. In the last episode, we learned how to clean up unwanted lines between adjacent geometry and how to keep wanted lines between adjacent geometry using the body-1 command and the model wire command combined with the right status codes. We also learned how to implement some conditional limitations on your parameters using the values command to prevent the user from breaking your object. In this episode, we go over the Graphisoft doors macro map, and I show you which macro to use for your opening lines and how to get the basics of calling this macro into your object. Knowing this saves you a lot of time. Before we get into opening lines, I just want to talk about investigating Graphisoft objects to see how they do things so that you can copy problems that smarter people have already solved. One of the things that they say in the GDL help is have a look at a Graphisoft object to see how it's done. So this is a Graphisoft door, Arch door 27, and we'll open it. Open object. And I just want to sort of demonstrate that this is easier said than done in many cases. So we've opened our door, right? And we go, okay, I want to see how you do the opening lines. Let's have a look at the script. So we'll click on the master script and we'll see by the mini map over here that, oh, that's a pretty small script. Maybe they got something in 2D. Nope, there's nothing in 2D. Maybe they got something in 3D. Nope. And as we go through the script pages, we see they're completely empty. And we see in the master script here that I don't see how you can achieve all the complexity you're achieving in your door with this tiny little script. And when we unpack it, we see that we've got a call command here, which, as I've explained previously, is basically calling another object in the library, saying go and run this object. Okay, well, I understand that. GS general LT door macro. Great. So I have to find this object, open it, have a look. You can do that, or you can highlight the text and open it using this button again, or the shortcut key or the file menu. We'll open that. Right. This should have the answers I'm after. Should be what I'm looking for. Oh, it's looking promising so far. There's a lot of script in here. Okay, well, that's pretty impressive. But when you dig into it, you see that basically it's all just setting values. We look at the 3D. Oh, we've got another call here, GS door functions. All right, let's open that. Go to the 3D. Oh, we see that's got another call function in here. Call, and if I search for all the calls, we've got 3 in this script. Warhol structure, Warhol framing. If I go back to that GS general LT door macro and do the same, look for call. Got 2 here, general door unit, GS door functions. And what you discover is that the Graphisoft doors are made up of a variety of macros in your object. They all do different things. So GS door functions will do various door functions. General door unit, I'm not entirely sure what that does, but clearly it's got something to do with doors. Warhol framing, so that would be the framing around the Warhol. Warhol structure, not sure exactly. Opening options, so I've mapped these out in this macro map here. These are all the macros that I've found associated with Graphisoft doors. So this is the first object we opened. So we had the arch door. In your library, you've got all of these doors sitting here. Each one of them calls GS general LT door macro, or probably a top level macro like that, which is this one here, GS LT door macro. This macro calls these macros. These in turn call these call these, these call these. So you can see it gets very confusing very quickly to understand what is what. So I spent the time to map these out instead of chasing the rabbit down the rabbit hole every time I wanted to find out how something was executed by Graphisoft. I now have a map in place to do that. And so what we're after now is the opening lines. I've got a macro here. It's got op lines there. I know from experience that's not what I'm after in this particular instance. We can talk about that later. But here is what we're after, opening lines. So now I can copy that text, paste it into a script window anywhere, select it, and open it. And that will open that macro. It will find that macro in the loaded libraries and open it. And then I can investigate in a more targeted fashion what it is I'm trying to figure out. So this particular one will draw the opening lines for your door. It's got everything in there to draw the dash lines. As previously explained, Archicad doesn't draw dash lines in 3D. You've got to draw each segment, and this macro will do it for you. So we just have to piggyback off this macro and get it to work for us to utilize it in our object. And in order to do that, you just need to understand how to use it. So we'll talk about that now. So I can control this nice and cleanly. I'll just put in a go sub of opening lines. And right down the bottom, I'll create this subroutine. Now, what do I need to run the opening lines? The macro we're after is opening lines. But if I have a look at that macro, you can see how long the script is. And to be frank, it's fairly confusing. I could spend the time figuring it out. It'd take a while. It's quite an extensive script. So we just need to find where somewhere else has called this script and just copy that code. And we can see here that in my macro map, that door leaf panels calls this script. So if I open that macro and do a search for opening lines, here are the instances. We've only got 3 instances in this door leaf panel. Here are the instances where it's called that macro. And it's split it up into 2 calls if it's a pivot door. So a pivot door is where the hinge is offset from the side of the door leaf. So it does it twice. Or for another normal door, it's only got this 1 call here. So that's what I need. Let's copy that. Put it in here and adjust it for what I need. So parameters A equals A. So the statement call opening lines. Call means go off and run this object, run object opening lines, and make the parameters of that object equal these things. So the parameter A in opening lines is to equal A from this object. The parameter B in opening lines is to equal op line height. Now, I don't have a variable op line height. That's in the Graphisoft doors. They've created that and filled that somehow, but we will just use B for now, just so that we can get something in place and have a look at it. Frame thickness, well, we know what frame thickness is. That will be our leaf thickness. Frame thickness, we're after GS leaf thick. So frame thickness equals opening type. Not sure what that is. Opening line 3D in and out. Not sure what those are, but I don't have these variables. Opening line pen. Well, I know what the pen is. In my particular template, my opening lines are pen 8. And opening line style. Don't know what that is. So let's have a look for those. We'll start by looking in our door leaf panels macro. So this is a Graphisoft macro. I opening type. We'll search for that. And you can see here, I opening type 12 if it's a left sliding door, or opening type 4 if it's a side hung door, which is what we're after. Now also, if we look in opening lines, we've got all the opening types listed here. So you could utilize those depending on the sort of door that you are scripting. But in our case, we're just after a side hung. So over here, opening type equals 4 for side hung. Now for the line type, in and out, once again, we'll look at our door leaf panels, search for this variable. You can see it's not actually defined in this script. Maybe it's defined in the master script. So a search there, no results. But we can see that door leaf panels gets called from general door unit. So we'll have a look at that. Just paste the name in a script, select it, open it. And we'll have a look in the parameters of this. So after a bit of hunting through the scripts, I found in opening lines, we've got the definitions here in the name itself for ease of reference. So the opening line 3D in and 3D out. 0 is continuous or solid, 1 is dashed, 2 is dotted. And just to tie that together, looking in our model view options, under miscellaneous settings, our line type, solid, dashed, and dotted. Solid, dashed, and dotted. So that's where those come from. You can't just put in any line type, it's got to be those options. In order for us to figure out which side is which, we'll do one as a solid line and one as a dashed line. 0 is solid, 1 is dashed. What's opening style? Let's have a look at our opening lines again. Opening style M. We've got opening line style, international, and I don't know what DH means. Default towards handle, so it'll point towards the handle. And 2 is towards the hinges. Again, under our model view options, we've got our line orientation. So I'm not entirely sure why they call it line orientation here and line style in the macro, but there you go. In my case, my opening line will point towards the handle, so that is a 1. Right, we've called our opening lines. Check our script. It's okay. And let's see what the result is. Save my object, have a look. All right. So we have a result, and from here we can tweak our parameters to make sure that what we get is what we need. First of all, our A and B dimensions can be fixed. That's pretty easy, we know how to do that. My A dimension will be my leaf width. My B dimension will be B minus my GS frame width by 2. Frame thickness is correct. Let's have a look. All right, so that's in slightly the wrong place. What I'll do, now that I've got that in place, is instead of calling it right from the top, I will call this from within my leaf subroutine. So that way it draws the leaf, and as part of drawing that leaf, it will also do the opening lines. So we're adding our cursor in the X direction to get to the edge of the leaf. What I'll also do is I'll rotate the leaf as well, just as, well, added functionality, but also then we can see exactly where our cursor is. And we want that to be GS Open 3D. So we want to rotate in the Y axis minus GS Open 3D. And down the end of our subroutine, we want to make sure that is also deleted. So it's deleting 3. And after we've drawn our glass, we'll add our subroutine to the opening lines. Now this isn't going to be right exactly, but I want to work through it with you. So I'll save that. Okay, excellent. So the door leaf is open at 90 degrees. That is parametric. If I change that to 60 degrees, good. we can see what's happening with our opening lines. So I just need to add transformation here, and I want to multiply it in the x-axis. So the x-axis is running this way. So I want to multiply it by -1 to get those opening lines pointing the other way. And then when I finish that, I'll delete that transformation. There's that. We can see though that it's not sitting on the leaf properly. This outside line is intersecting the leaf, and this is sitting proud of the leaf. And the reason for that is that we are calling this opening line just after we've done the glass. And the glass has its own transformation here. So I'll just need to delete that transformation. Given I've deleted one here, I'll remove one from this final deletion to keep the numbers correct. And now we've got our opening lines lining up with our leaf. So if I change the thickness of my leaf, let's make it 80 thick. Those opening lines still line up with that. So that's the basics of utilizing the opening lines macro. It's written by Graphisoft. We have, however, hard-coded these final parameters into this call, and we don't want that. So opening type, that's fine to be hard-coded, because in this case, this door is only ever going to be a side-hung door, so that's okay. But the line types for in and out, the pen, and the opening style, we want those to inherit their values, or to get their values, from the model view options. So let's have a look at how to do that. We'll wrap this one up there. Now you know about the complexities of the Graphisoft door macro map and which one to use for your door opening lines and how to get the basics of that into your object. In the next episode, we'll flesh out our use of the opening lines macro so that it responds to the model view options, the MVOs. And I'll also cover some techniques on how to find relevant Graphisoft parameters. We do a bit of detective work. I'll see you there.